I was listening to Jamie talk earlier about availabilism, and I thought, yeah, I got something for that, an antidote. It's called quitting. That's what I'm going to talk about. Quitting has a bad rap. It feels like failure, like giving up. We're supposed to go for our goals until we get them and blast through obstacles, to never quit. It's easy to agree with that idea because you can't make stuff happen if you don't stick with it. And yet, throughout our lives, we will all come up against goals we would be better off without. Every one of you probably has right now something that you would love to quit. And as you think about that thing, a team or a project or a job, you might be getting a gnarly feeling in the pit of your stomach. A mixture of desire with fear and guilt because we're not supposed to quit. But what if we are? What if quitting is actually a positive act? We put perseverance on this pedestal and we relegate quitting to the loser category. We believe that perseverance is going to win us the prize and that quitting is going to lead us to loss. The truth is that both those avenues can take you to defeat or to victory. And both of them require courage. Quitting is not the coward's way out. General MacArthur is famous for saying, "Americans never quit." But he also said, "We're not retreating, we're advancing in another direction." Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, they advanced in another direction when they quit school in order to found their computer empires. They understood that quitting well is an important part of creating a life that turns you on. It's an act of supreme understanding as to what is important to us. Without it, we exist on a kind of goal attainment autopilot. We become hoarders of goals and commitments until we're just ready to burst. Quitting is a way of decluttering the hoard, of getting rid of the crap so that you can focus on and be good at the things that really matter. My first big quit was when I was a little kid and I was taking piano lessons and was pounding on the keyboard in frustration, and my mother, exasperated, called out from the kitchen, "You don't have to take those lessons, you know." Whoa, I don't? I got up from the piano and that was that. But that wasn't really good quitting. That was giving up in a rage. My next big quit was when I was working for my father. And he ran an engineering company full of men in suits. And I had just moved in with my bearded biker boyfriend. So Dad called me into his office and said that as his daughter, working in his company, shacking up with this dude did not uphold the moral standards that I was expected to keep. Really. So I quit on the spot. Kind of surprised him. But sorry, Dad. But that wasn't really great quitting either, because I had no other income set up or anything like that. But it was a little further along the spectrum, because I was quitting for something I actually believed in, which was my personal freedom. In this case, against parental tyranny. I'm sure you can all relate. The first time I really staged a good quit was when I was 33. And I was a VP in a thriving $200 million high-tech company. I had worked my ass off to get that job. I was making great money. And every Friday, on the way home from work, I would burst into sobs from the stress that had built up over the course of the week. But it was worth it, right? I was making the grade. I kept up that routine for about a year and a half until it finally dawned on me. Maybe sobbing every week was not a price I should be paying for my success. That situation, it's incredibly common. Emma Sapala of Stanford University studies burnout in corporations. More than half of the practitioners in certain fields suffer from it. She studies what it does to their mental and physical health, how it's literally killing them. And not just in corporations, but in universities too. We've all heard these kinds of stats. We've all felt how perseverance, when you apply it to the wrong thing, turns into an evil twin, and it ruins our health and our relationship and sucks up our energy without giving anything back. When I quit that VP job, people thought I was nuts, but I had in mind a better way to spend my energy on something that meant more to me. I quit it in order to start up my landscape design company, which I'd already begun on the side. I staged a slow exit, which was good for both of us, and eventually I balanced summers in design with winters in freelance marketing, and there were no more weekly sobbing fits. That was quitting well. I've done more of it since, not jobs, but other situations, and I don't regret any of it. I'm certainly not alone in discovering that quitting saved my sanity, fed my creativity, and it opened up possibilities that I hadn't even imagined. People discover this every day. So if quitting can be so darn good for us, why do we avoid it like the plague? One reason is a weird human behavior called the sunk cost fallacy. Simply put, we love to keep investing in things long after they've stopped giving us a return. It feels wasteful to pull the plug. Now, smart investors know to get out as soon as they see that the tide is turning, but the rest of us, we stay in until we've lost everything. Or we fear that quitting will make our devotion to the old goal look like an error in judgment. God forbid. Dan Ariely of Duke University studies how the longer we stick with something, the more we will convince ourselves, well, I must love that thing. This is especially true if it makes us suffer. That's how much we hate being wrong. Then there's the fear of failure. Who wants to be that person who couldn't stay the course? Failure carries with it a lot of social and personal stigma. And yet, trial and failure, those are the foundation of invention. Last but not least, we just don't like change. We have this super clear vision of our current situation, regardless of how awful it might be, but a super murky one of what could be. And so we stick with the devil we know. All of these behaviors, they are the result of looking backwards instead of forwards, of trying to minimize risk as opposed to going for reward. So how can we overcome this perversity of our brains? How can we know when to stick with something and when to give it the heave-ho? I want you to think for a minute about the goals and commitments that you have. Servicing those things determines the structure of your lives. Where and how you live, how you spend your time, your money, your energy. Those things are finite resources, so you better be spending them on something that matters. That requires regular decluttering of your goals and commitments. Your brain is kind of like a dorm room. If you never touched any of the stuff you put in that room, it would soon be filled with old pizza boxes and somebody else's sweater and that dead plant you forgot to water. All that stuff is obscuring what's really important, like tomorrow's term paper. And just as we have to clean up our rooms once in a while to get at the stuff we really need, we have to clean up our goals regularly. Toss out the old and moldy stuff so that you can get at what's important. You can think of it as good emotional housekeeping. It would make your mother proud. In assessing what should stay and what should go, one of the first things you have to ask yourself is, which of my goals are attainable and which are not? Decades of psychology studies by Karsten Rosch and others have confirmed what we already sense, that our well-being is best served when we ditch unattainable goals. Those are things like winning the heart of somebody who's not into you or trying to become an accountant when you suck at math. Now, sometimes a goal will feel unattainable because of the mountain of effort that's between you and the promised land. But most of the time, we understand what is just really challenging and what is truly beyond our grasp. Maybe you've been spinning your wheels for a long time and you're just not getting any traction. You've made all the adjustments you can think of and still nada. That sucker has flatlined. As soon as you know something is flatlined, you want to get out of there. Stop wasting your precious resources on something that is going nowhere so you can redirect them to something that could. Now, attainable goals, they're a little trickier. Then the questions become, at what cost and for what reward? And is that reward worth the cost? This is the essential stay or go equation. You've probably all had an experience where you jumped into something all keen about what you were going to get and a little fuzzy about what it was going to take. And then as your enthusiasm wore off and you understood the true cost, you thought, oh, this is just not worth it to me. This happens a lot in dating. It also happens in bigger things like careers and your whole way of life. Sometimes cost can include money, time, energy, emotional energy. Occasionally, the cost of pursuing a goal is so great that it's outright bad for us to keep going. Maybe it's messing with your head, screwing up your sleep, giving you stomach cramps or some other my body's trying to tell me something reaction. In those situations, quitting becomes an act of self-preservation. On the reward side of things, ask yourself, what is winning that goal going to bring you? Not just the goal itself, not just the Olympic medal or the CEO position or the doctorate, but everything that that goal comprises for you. Maybe it's power or wealth or security or a sense of purpose or love or a host of other goodies. What do those goodies mean to you? And what are you willing to do to get them? There are no right or wrong answers to this equation. There's only your own judgment. It's a little like taking a Cosmo love quiz. How hot are you for that goal? You've got to be hot for it, because if you lose that fire that takes you through the tough bits, then each new obstacle is going to feel that much more impossible to overcome and possibly pointless. Now, once you've come eyeball to eyeball with your goals and commitments in this way, you're probably going to quit some stuff. Some things temporarily and some things forever. But regardless, it's a good thing. You will bring way more to the stuff that you keep. You might even take on something new. Once you've decluttered in this way, take that newly shrunk goal list and stick it on your fridge so you remain completely aware of what you're pursuing and why. And so you remember to clean it up again regularly, just like your room. Now, quitting, it's a hard decision. I won't sugarcoat it. As one courageous quitter told me, I felt simultaneously liberated and terrified, happy and sad, empowered and scared. That is quite a crazy ride. But it's not a ride on autopilot. When you allow yourself the possibility of quitting, you put yourself in the driver's seat of your life. You allow it to be different, bigger, full of things that turn you on. Quitting is not failure. It's a way of taking responsibility for yourself, of freeing up misdirected energy so that you can put it towards something that really counts. So I ask you, what really counts for you? And what are you going to quit to make it happen? Thank you.